Hello and welcome to Focus IR. I am John Hewan and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Geoffrey Beard, Director General Emeritus of the International Baccalaureate and now Non-Executive Director of Fairview International, which is one of the key exponents of the International Baccalaureate. How are you doing, Geoffrey?
I'm doing fine, John. How are you today?
I'm very well, thanks. And thank you for joining us from Thailand. I understand it's quite hot there.
You're very welcome. Yeah.
Excellent. So, Geoffrey, before you tell us about how you came to be involved with Fairview International, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your background as an educationalist.
Sure. I was the former Director General of the International Baccalaureate from 2006 to 2014. And before that, I was on various school boards. I have a history of education in my family with my father, a teacher. My brothers were teachers. My wife's a teacher. My sister-in-law is a teacher. So I was always interested in education and intended to run an MBA program at a U.S. university after I left the business world. But at the same time that happened is when the opening occurred with the International Baccalaureate. But they said, we're actually looking for somebody with a business background that is passionate about education because of some organizational issues that they had at the time.
I mean, it's a fantastic qualification. Tell us a bit more about the approach that the International Baccalaureate takes, or why you're so interested in it, why you think it's a better approach perhaps than some of the more commonly used approaches in education.
Sure. Basically, the International Baccalaureate, the diploma program, is a worldwide curriculum. It's the most unique curriculum in the entire world, and people compare it to other curriculums that are widely taught overseas, such as advanced placement, U.S. College Board, AP, A-levels, British A-levels in Britain, and there's a few others that are happening. But in terms of an English language curriculum, this was developed back in the late 60s by a group of educators who at the time were concerned about expatriate families having to move back to their native countries to have their kids finish high school so they could go to the local university. Because the local university, a country university, did not recognize the education from a different country. So it started on that pretext to say, with the theory of, why don't we develop a curriculum that is harder, more stringent than any other country curriculum in the world? And so they took best practices from around the world. They had a group of educators from different countries put it together in Geneva, Switzerland, and they started the organization in 1968. So it's well over 55 years old at this point.
And just in terms of the outcomes that it delivers, my understanding is that in terms of sort of university acceptors, the IB has some really serious credentials.
Well, it does. I mean, from its base of just a dozen schools that tried it on a trial basis, it's now 5,900, 6,000 schools worldwide with 2.4 million students in 160 different countries. So the reason that universities like it so much is because of its rigor. It is basically, there are 6 subjects and it has a core that includes theory of knowledge, which is a philosophy course. What is knowledge? They have a community action and service component, which is 200 hours that the kids need to do certain projects outside of the school. And they have to do a 4,000-word extended essay. So it's comprehensive. It has an international focus. It's not focused on any single country's curriculum. It has a rigorous assessment. So one of the unique things that universities love about it is the external assessment component of it is graded by external examiners that are located around the world. So when all the students are taking the tests at the same time on the same dates, those examinations then get sent electronically now to an examiner. The examiner does not know who the student is, what sex the student is, anything about the student at all. They're just grading the examination. And the beautiful part about it, the scores are, the IB diploma is based on 45 points. You need 24 to minimally graduate. And the average score is about 30. It stays roughly 30 and a half over the last 50 years. There's been no grade inflation at all at the International Baccalaureate. It's stayed pretty consistent over time. Therefore, and the perfect score is 45. So it happens to form, when you map it out, a perfect bell-shaped curve with 30 being at the top. So when a college or university is looking at a student and they say, well, they got a 37 or 36, they know that they're here on the right-hand side of the curve. And they're not just comparing that student to that high school they came from, but to all the students around the world that are taking the same examination.
So a very trusted qualification, which I guess is really very, very important in this day and age. And there were a couple of things you mentioned at the beginning in terms of the program, and that was sort of the sort of philosophy module around the nature of learning, but also the sort of pastoral side of things as well. And am I right in thinking this is a qualification that isn't just churning out grades and students with grades, but actually I think you describe them as global citizens in a presentation that you give. Can you talk us through that? I think that seems to be a key differentiator here.
Sure, it is aimed at global citizens. It has a philosophy that other people with their differences can also be right. So the IB emerged as an aftermath of World War II by a bunch of educators who said not only should we have a educational program that is better than any country's program, but let's have something that produces global citizens. Let's have something that basically appreciates people for their differences. And so it quite deliberately brings that into the curriculum and emphasizes that. So the global citizen component is based on the philosophy that if more students understand the context of different countries, of different philosophies, of different histories, that they will be more accepting, and it could help to reduce or if not eliminate war over time.
And also, it sounds like there's a lot of emphasis put on students giving something back to society as well. And that seems very, very important again in this day and age.
Yes, it is. The students basically, it's a forward-thinking type of curriculum, and students are encouraged to give back. So when they're in the program, they're doing their community action and service, which is a component of giving back. And so they're involved, they're engaged, they are active in their community. They work on projects that are administered by the IB. So very much so, the students that come out of the IB's diploma program do very well at university. Many universities now, Harvard included, will just bypass the freshman year completely. They'll say, come in as a sophomore. They're also at the point where they don't even care what the score is that you're getting for many universities, because the rigor is such that they know that the success of those students are pretty consistent regardless of how well they scored. You can't necessarily predict college performance if you just because they got a 37 versus a 32. So that's one of the reasons universities love it, because those students do well at universities, and then those students, when they graduate from universities, do well in life.
Yes, yeah, I think doing well in life, that's something that Dr. Vincent Shen and I have spoken about at length, and it does seem to be extremely important. I mean, given how effective the IB is as an education approach, where can the potential? Where do you see the potential? Obviously, it has a large footprint of students already, but how big can it get? Given we need something certainly in some countries to change with our education approach.
Right. I think there's many ways. I mean, it sounds impressive to say, gee, we're in 160 countries. There's 2.5 million students with 5,900 schools. But most of those schools are in the United States. They're in the United States. They're in Great Britain. They're in Australia. And then other countries will have a smaller amount. Why is that? It's because those countries that I mentioned, the government uses IB as a component of their excellence. So U.S. schools, for example, will help subsidize bringing the IB in for public schools, and so anybody can take it. It doesn't cost them anything to do it. When you get outside those countries I mentioned, most other countries run it as a private school, which means you're signing up your child to go to a private international school with tuitions of $30,000, $40,000 a year, whatever it may be, and it's very expensive. But it doesn't have to be that way. And so we're trying to get more governments to embrace the philosophy of using it as a component to improve their whole population, because it works remarkably well. And that's one of the reasons. That's one of the ways we're trying to do it. It's already in a bunch of countries, so it's modeled there. So it can easily be spread. The other component that's starting to come into play is the online component. The IB is experimented with an online diploma that is both a hybrid system of in-classroom as well as online component as well. So as that technology starts to flourish, that also will provide some more opportunity for students.
Yeah. I guess this is where Fairview comes in, and your involvement with Fairview. Tell us how you became involved with Fairview, and why. You know what? I mean, it seems to me to be a company that is embodying the sort of very essence of what the IB can bring.
Well, exactly, John. That's one of the reasons I got involved with them. I did this when I was the director general. I had this guy called Daniel Chin, who's the CEO of Fairview, stop by the office and talk to me about uh, wanting to put the IB program in. At the time, he had a few schools, and he was teaching Cambridge A levels. And he decided, he studied it and he researched it, and he says, I've looked at the research, and it says that the IB diploma program is the best program. I'm gonna take all of my schools away from not do Cambridge A levels anymore. We're going to do the IB. I'm going to do the primary year program, the middle year program, the diploma program, all the K through 12 programs. And I said, great, I'd like to help you with that. And so he started to move that away. It was unpopular with the parents at first, but now it's really taken hold. So because he's done that, he would periodically come back and he'd say, well, I've done this, but now I can't keep my teachers in place because they leave. And so I said, why don't you get a teacher training component? There's a way that the IB can authorize you to train teachers so that they're qualified to teach the IB. You can do that at your own school. So he did that, and he came back on that, and he says, not only did I get that qualification, but I went ahead and formed my own university. So he has Fairview College University, which is the only authorized IB program that can qualify teachers in the Asia Pacific region. And so he brings teachers over that want to be a teacher, trains them to be an IB teacher, gets some experience in the classroom, and then uses them in his schools.
So a fantastic opportunity for those who wish to get into the teaching profession, as well as parents who are looking for a great education for their kids.
Exactly right. Because the IB is sort of in a niche, those teachers are very well in demand, because the IB employs the constructivist theory, which is that of student learning, which is where the student takes responsibility for the learning and the teacher is more of a coach. So Fairview, those teachers are in demand. They tend to be drawn away from schools, IB schools, so they can go to other schools to try to improve the performance of the school. And then the school is forced to always fill the backlog. So the ability to train an IB teacher in the qualification is a lot better than it was when I was director general just 10 years ago.
Yeah, indeed. And it sounds like you've had a very sort of hands-on role in supporting Fairview through this development.
Well, I have. I think because, in my previous life before I was with the IB, I was in the business world. I have an MBA. I was in agribusiness, and I did a few other things where I was able to run a component of the business, run an operation. I was the chief operating officer. So I'm used to looking at balance sheets and business models and affecting change within organizations when things don't work very well. So I had that history of being able to fix businesses and make them better, make them stronger through analysis and teamwork. And then so coming to the IB, that's exactly what we needed to do. They were running the IB kind of like a large school, and they needed to completely change the way that they were administering the IB across the schools. And they've done that now. They formed the IB Educator Network, and they've got 3 global centers around the globe. And it's much more, it's better structured today than it's ever been in the past.
Yeah, now, I mean, it sounds, having spoken to yourself and Vincent previously, it sounds like there is huge potential for Fairview to take this further.
Oh, for sure. I think coming out of COVID, a lot of schools have taken a hit, and Fairview's one of those. And so there's plenty of capacity, and they have a school in Scotland. They also have schools in 5 properties in Malaysia. So it's a tremendous opportunity to not only for the Fairview schools, but for continuing to acquire schools to become Fairview schools.
Yeah, indeed. And it's great to have you supporting that process. Jeffrey, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and finding out more about this incredible qualification. Thank you very much.